My husband ignored me after I almost died giving birth until the male nurse said, if she was mine, I'd hold her hand. He lost it. My husband begged me to have his baby for 3 years before I finally agreed to get pregnant. The second they wheeled me into the recovery room after my emergency cesarean, my husband pulled out his phone and started playing some stupid mobile game he's obsessed with. I was struggling to hold our daughter so she wouldn't cry while eating and managing my pain. Meanwhile, he sat in the corner tapping his screen and cursing when he lost matches. Your food's getting cold again, said a voice from the doorway. I looked up to see my nurse Austin walking in with fresh ice chips. He was tall with kind eyes and he had been taking amazing care of me for the last 5 days. The cafeteria actually made something edible today, but you haven't touched it. He glanced at me, struggling to balance the baby while reaching for my tray. Here, let me take her for a minute so you can actually eat something. I practically shoved my daughter into his arms because my incision was screaming and I hadn't really eaten anything in 2 days. Please, take her before I drop her trying to reach that pudding cup, I said, and he laughed before glancing at my husband, who hadn't moved in 3 hours. Earlier, your husband was asking the nurses if the cafeteria had better Wi-Fi because his game keeps lagging. I nearly choked on my food. He actually asked them that? Austin looked uncomfortable for a second, then seemed to decide something. Yeah, and yesterday when the nurse asked if he wanted to do skin-to-skin contact with the baby, he said that was, quote, your thing, not his. Direct quote. The words hit like physical blows. I found myself staring at Austin, who was gently swaying with my daughter, humming something soft while my husband hadn't held her once in 5 days. It shouldn't have hurt as much as it did, but tears started forming anyway, probably from hormones and exhaustion and the fact that I almost died giving birth to his child. Austin immediately grabbed tissues and wiped my face for me because my hands were shaking. That simple gesture made me realize nobody had touched me with kindness in months. I'm sorry. That was unprofessional of me. No, you were just telling me the truth, I said. I just can't believe you almost died 4 days ago and he's worried about internet speed, Austin said quietly, putting my daughter in her bassinet carefully. You know that's not normal, right? I thought about how my husband always forgot I was pregnant until I was 6 months along because he never looked up long enough to notice my growing belly. He didn't come to a single prenatal appointment, I heard myself saying, not even the ultrasounds. Austin sat on the edge of my bed and his face showed something between professional concern and barely contained rage. My wife had 12 appointments and I went to every single one. From across the room, my husband suddenly shouted fucking campers at his screen loud enough to wake the baby. He had the audacity to look annoyed when she started crying. Austin stood up to get her but stopped and looked at my husband. Your daughter is crying, he said flatly. My husband didn't even look up. She'll stop in a minute. I felt something break inside my chest. Austin picked the baby back up and walked closer to my bed. You know what kills me about this job? He adjusted the baby's tiny hospital hat and continued. Sometimes I have to watch men mistreat their wives. I always think, if that was my wife who almost bled to death delivering my baby, I'd be holding her hand every second, not playing on my phone like some teenager whose mom dragged him to visit his sick grandma. But maybe I'm just old-fashioned about marriage and basic human decency. My husband shot up from his chair so fast his phone clattered onto the floor and he actually kicked it trying to get to us. What the hell did you just say? He demanded, storming over to where Austin sat completely calm, still holding our daughter. I was talking to your wife about my experiences working here, Austin said professionally, but if you heard something that offended you, maybe you should ask yourself why. My husband suddenly grabbed our daughter from Austin's arms, asking if she needed to be changed. I don't need some wannabe doctor hovering around my family, he spat. I've got this handled, now get out. Austin stood slowly and looked him directly in the eyes. All right then, quick question since you've got this handled. When did she last eat? My husband's mouth opened and closed, but nothing came out. After Austin left to continue his rounds, my husband said, that nurse needs to be reported for harassment. I stared at him. What's our daughter's name? I asked quietly. He rolled his eyes. What kind of question is that? Obviously it's... He stopped. His hand actually started reaching for his phone like the answer might be there.